Pretend to be my boyfriend for 2 days, my boss said, her voice low and careful, as if she were negotiating a business deal. Then she added after a brief pause, but this goes beyond a kiss. I stared at her, convinced I had misunderstood. This was the same woman who corrected my emails with red precision, who never mixed work with personal life, who kept her office door half open like a boundary no one dared cross. And now she was standing there, arms folded, eyes steady, waiting for my answer. "It's not what you think," she said quickly, reading my silence. "There's a family event this weekend. My parents' investors, a lot of expectations." She exhaled, the confidence cracking just enough to reveal exhaustion beneath. "They won't stop until they see me settled. I need this to end the questions." I should have said no. Every sensible part of me knew that. But then she looked away, and for the first time since I'd known her, she seemed human. Not the untouchable executive, but a woman cornered by a life she hadn't chosen. "What does beyond a kiss mean?" I asked carefully. "It means," she said, choosing her words, "holding hands, showing up together, convincing smiles, comfort, presence." She met my eyes again. "Not lies about who you are, just a role we both agree to play." I thought of my empty weekend, my routine life that rarely surprised me. I thought of how much I respected her, and how dangerous that made this. "We set rules," I said. "Clear ones." A small, relieved smile crossed her face. "Of course." We agreed on the basics. 2 days, no work talk, complete honesty if either of us felt uncomfortable. She would handle the setting. I would follow her lead, simple, professional, temporary. As she handed me the itinerary, our fingers brushed. It was nothing, an accident, but the air shifted, like a door quietly opening somewhere inside me. She noticed it too, because she stepped back, straightened her jacket, and returned to her composed self. "Thank you," she said. "This means more than you know." When I left her office, my heart was racing, not with excitement, but with the unsettling sense that I'd just agreed to something that would change the way I saw her and myself. 2 days, that was all. At least, that's what we were pretending to believe. We arrived at the coastal house just before sunset. It was elegant without trying. White stone, wide windows, the kind of place where conversations echoed longer than words. As soon as we stepped inside, the performance began. She slipped her hand into mine, natural and warm, like it belonged there. "Relax," she whispered, smiling for the people already watching us. "Just be you." Her parents greeted us with polite curiosity that sharpened into scrutiny within seconds. Her mother studied my posture, my shoes, the way I answered simple questions. Her father asked about my work, nodding slowly, measuring something unspoken. I kept my answers honest as promised. No exaggeration, no borrowed confidence. Dinner was a careful dance. Laughter at the right moments. Shared glances that suggested history we didn't have. When she touched my arm while telling a story, I felt the line blur, not because of desire, but because of familiarity forming too quickly to be fake. Later, investors joined us in the living room. Conversations turned strategic, layered with subtext. She leaned into me once, resting her head lightly against my shoulder, as if seeking reassurance. The room softened around that image. Approval followed. I realized then, this wasn't just about silencing questions. It was about safety, being seen as anchored. When the night finally thinned, we escaped to the balcony overlooking the sea. The breeze cooled the heat building in my chest. "You did well," she said quietly. "Too well." "Is that a problem?" I asked. She hesitated. "It might be." There was a long pause, filled only by waves and the sound of our breathing. The role felt heavier now, more intimate, less pretend. "We should stick to the rules," I said, more to steady myself than to remind her. "I know," she replied. Then softer, "But rules don't stop feelings. They just delay them." Inside, her mother called for us. Photos, memories, proof. We went back in. Cameras flashed, arms wrapped around waists. Smiles widened. Somewhere between a shared joke and a quiet look across the room, I realized I was no longer acting. I was responding. That night, there was only one guest room prepared for us. The silence outside it was louder than any question. She stood at the door, hand on the handle. "We don't have to cross any lines," she said. "But we can't pretend the tension isn't real. I nodded. 2 days, I reminded us both. She met my gaze, something unguarded there. Then let's be honest for all of them. The door closed behind us, not as a promise, not as a mistake, but as a moment suspended, waiting to be defined. Morning light slipped through the curtains, soft and unannounced. I woke before she did, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing from the other side of the room. Nothing had happened, no lines crossed, but everything had changed. We moved carefully that day, as if aware that every word might tilt the balance. Over breakfast, her parents were warmer, more relaxed. The questions stopped. The expectations eased. The role we'd agreed to play had worked perfectly. Too perfectly. Later, we walked along the shoreline alone. Shoes in hand, trousers rolled up, waves brushing our ankles. It felt strangely normal, two people sharing silence without needing to fill it. "You could have said no," she said suddenly. "I know," I replied. "You could have chosen anyone." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Anyone would have played the part. "You made it feel real." We stopped walking. The wind tugged at her hair. For the first time since this began, there was no audience, no performance. "This ends tonight," I said gently. "That was the deal." "I know," she said again. Then after a pause, "But deals are for business." This stopped being business yesterday. Her honesty disarmed me more than any confession could have. I realized then that what scared me wasn't losing my job or crossing a professional line. It was losing the version of her I'd met when this was still pretend. Back at the house, goodbyes were emotional. Her mother hugged me tightly. Her father shook my hand with quiet respect. The illusion had done its work. On the drive back, the car felt smaller. The city drew closer. At a red light, she spoke. "I won't ask you to stay in something uncertain." I looked at her. "And I won't walk away pretending nothing happened." She nodded, eyes fixed ahead. "Then let's not pretend." We stopped in front of my apartment. The engine idled. 2 days were over. "Monday," she said softly, "we go back to work." "Yes," I agreed. "And after work?" she asked, finally turning to me. I smiled, not as her employee, not as her pretend boyfriend, but as myself. "After work, we see what's real." She laughed quietly, the tension breaking at last. This time, when she kissed me, it wasn't part of a role.